Hold on just a second. Hello, Victor. How are you?
Doing good.
All right, so I just want to ask you some questions and go forward.
Okay.
All right. I know that I have case 14003 through 14005. Supposedly, they're going to be scheduled for the hearing on May.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So now I know that there's some confusion in the files as to the paperwork and that kind of stuff. So I just want to acknowledge and, check with you that I'll be following up with you to send in the paperwork, to split them up to show which one goes in each file and
Yes,
everything.
that'd be fine.
Because, remember 14,005, which Mr. Caldera told me had certain particular paperwork by the Department of Public Health that wasn't in there. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do recall the question.
And you acknowledge that it's not in there, so the representation that was made to me was incorrect.
I do believe that there is something from Public Health in the file.
That's page 43 of the PDF that I got? Or is it something you've just added now?
It was part of the PDF, but here it is.
Will that show up on the PDF when I open it?
If it is not, I can make sure that it's corrected.
So, it's not about making sure that it's corrected, it's about representation. I went ahead and stated the truth, and this is Sunshine, and I want to be sure that, I'm not misrepresenting something, and neither is your side.
Yes, when I made the PDF, everything that's in the file was copied.
Okay, so if it was in the file, and as you're stating it's in the file now, and it was copied, then it should show up in my PDF of 14,005, which I kept a copy of at home.
Yes.
In which I've already notified you it wasn't there. So, we'll once again butt heads here and see where the truth really lies at a later point in time and the representations. All right, now let's move on, please. Were you able to find out any answers about the prior nuclear winter from the previous administrator or anybody as to, why we had what we had at the Sunshine Task Force, the Ministry of Sunshine, as far as...
I do not understand that question.
The nuclear winter is basically, there was a 6-month period in which the ministry was shut down before you got here.
My understanding is that at that time, they did not have correct members on the committee, and so that they were not having hearings until they got the correct members onto the committee.
I'm a little confused. So the committee that was there before wasn't the correct committee?
They were missing, I believe they were missing the required membership. I believe there's a disability requirement for one of the seats, and since that was not filled.
Not filled, did that person resign? Or?
I do not know.
Oh, so theoretically there could have been a complete task force there already, and let's say because of politics or some other reason, the person who was in that seat, we could also say might have been illegally, discarded or fired, and because of that, that seat wasn't filled, and because that seat not being filled, it screwed everybody in the ministry as far as being able to sit in judgment, and that's what created the nuclear winter.
I cannot talk to politics.
No, I'm not asking about politics. I'm asking about,
I'm just
what
stating
simply
that
happened.
at that time, the committee could not meet because they didn't have the required type of members.
Yes, at that time. And prior to that time, did they have the required amount of members? This is very much what we're getting to is representation and devils and the details here. Yes, I understand where you're represented at what point in time. At this particular point in time that you're saying, there wasn't the required constituency that should have been there. The question still remains, what was before that prior point in time and what led up to that prior point of time of not having the proper constituency? Was there the proper constituency before, and were they not issuing orders of determination?
Before that time, they were meeting.
That's correct. So there was obviously the correct constituency, the correct people in the correct seats, everything was correct. Correct?
That is my assumption, yes, because they were meeting.
Aha. Now, we need to understand what happened at that point to the next point when they stopped meeting. Now, you've just told me that they stopped meeting because there was not somebody appointed to that particular chair for the disabled person, correct?
That is my understanding.
So there was nobody appointed to that chair, or there was somebody who appointed, but he wasn't appointed correctly?
I cannot speak to that.
Well, who can, so that I can ask this question later on?
If you like the records concerning
the reason I'm asking this, and please understand, I'm not trying to interrupt you. The reason I'm asking this is because, I am showing not only the rig methodology, but how it's set up to defeat and to fail, whatever chance we have for Sunshine. And, when I'd written in priorly to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, Angela, and informed her and Rick of what the problems were, I'm supposed to gather stuff to present to them later on, about why it failed, why it was set up to fail, and what the consequences have been since. Now, let me ask you a question, moving on. You're talking about the proper constituency they didn't have, so that they couldn't hold meetings. Do you have the proper constituency now?
Yes, we do.
You do. All your seats are filled.
We have a quorum of
No,
membership,
that
yes.
wasn't the question. The question was...
Not all our seats are not filled. We currently have two
so
vacancies.
if all your seats are not filled, how can you have the proper constituency?
We do have a quorum of the committee.
That
so we
wasn't
can meet.
the answer. That was merely another evasive tactic to answer something that wasn't asked. The question is, I'll repeat it for a third time. You're supposed to have 11 members, correct?
There are 11 seats.
You're supposed to have 11 members,
There
correct?
are 11 seats.
You're supposed to have 11 members, correct?
There are 11 seats.
And those 11 seats are supposed to be filled,
Yes,
correct?
they are.
They are supposed to be filled.
Yes.
And are they currently filled?
9 of the 11 are filled at this time.
So are all 11 seats currently filled?
9 of the 11 seats are filled at this time.
So is that a no?
9 of the 11 seats are filled at this
So
time.
is that a no, that the full
9
11
of
are
the
not
11
filled?
seats are filled at this time.
See, this is the problem I'm having at the Ministry of Sunshine. Getting a correct, accurate answer. While your answer is that 9 of the 11 are filled, that's not accurate. I've asked you 3 times, are all 11 seats filled?
They are not. 9 of
Thank
the
you.
11 seats are filled.
Thank you. This is the first time you said no. Thank you. Now, let me ask you, what is the voting procedure? Let's say I bring a case to the Ministry of Sunshine, and there's supposed to be 11 people there to vote, and there's already 2 missing. What happens to those 2 that are missing? Are those automatically yes votes in my favor, the complainant?
There is no vote taken for those absent seats.
There's no votes taken, or are the votes counted as a no?
There are no votes taken for those seats.
So there's no votes, so there's only 9 votes left to be taken then?
Yes.
There's only 9 votes left to be taken?
Yes.
And at that point, out of those 9 votes that are taken, we need a majority of the votes to win?
We need a majority of the 11, which is 6
No.
votes.
No. You said there's only 9 votes left to be taken. Because you said the other ones, they don't vote, correct? Or are they automatic no votes?
There's no vote taken on seats that are not filled.
So they are basically, it's not that it's a no vote, it's just that they are excluded from the process and there's no vote taken whatsoever from them, positive or negative, and then that only leaves 9 to vote, correct?
That is correct.
All right, now what is the majority of 9? Would that be 5?
Is a majority of the commission, which is 11.
Wait a minute, the commission which
Of
is
the
missing
task
2
force.
seats,
A majority of the task force
which is
is
missing
6.
2 seats.
Majority of the task force is
Okay,
6
for
members.
the third time. Once again, we're getting back into, sunshine and what the truth is and the representations. The majority of 11 is how many?
6.
That's correct. And how many are sitting right now?
There are 9
Aha.
sitting.
And what is the majority of 9?
That is an irrelevant question.
Why is that an irrelevant question?
Because there are 11 members on the Sunshine Outreach
So
Task
now that
Force.
it's missing, no. That is an untrue answer. There are not 11 members. There are only 9.
There are 11 seats. on
Aha.
the
But
task
there are
force.
not 11 members. Correct.
There are 11 seats on the task force.
Correct.
There are currently 9 members sitting.
Correct. So there's not 11 members.
There are 9 members.
Correct. So there are 2 empty seats.
That is correct.
So it's not a full board.
We have 9 members out of 11 at this
So
time.
that is not a full board, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Now, the reason I'm bringing all this up is because the principle of sunshine is to be able to expose things and to make sure that stuff is accountable and stuff is being run properly and correctly. Can you explain to me due process? How can someone have due process when your representation is that they must have 6 votes if there's only 9 members?
I cannot answer that question.
Who can, so that I can ask the proper
That is
person and
not
get
a
it answered?
question that is relevant to this.
No, I
There are
disagree.
9
Am I not in front of the Ministry of Sunshine, and do I not want to know its process so that I can, understand complicitly how
You
it
need
works
to
and I
give
can
me
give
a
you my
clear
informed
question.
consent?
I do not understand the question. You need to give me a clear question.
Okay, I'll rephrase the question. Since there are only 9 members seating, and you're saying that it requires a vote of 6, how is that due process?
I cannot answer that question.
Who can?
Due process,
I mean, I'm coming to Sunshine to expose things and have due process. So who can answer that question? I mean, am I getting into a rigged game? Right now, you've told me there's, only 9 members, but yet that's a full board. At least that's what you're trying to make me believe, but I don't, because there's 2 missing people, so it can't be a full board. Also, your bylaws state that it must be heard in front of a full board, not, 9 members. Nowhere does it, I mean, I can pull out the paperwork and show you that on your bylaws, in front of a full board. So that's why I'm asking about representation here at the Ministry of Sunshine. Now, my due process question is a very logical question, especially if I'm trying to prove that it's rigged and unaccountable. So, who can answer that question for me?
I need a clarification of the question.
Okay, I'll work on sending it to you through an email, and then we can, have the written trail and follow up from there. All right, so now let me ask you, since I'm not receiving due process, and since Rick's already admitted that because of the violation of the 45-day rule, and, there's only 11 seats now, and how long is this 11 seats? I'm sorry, there's only 9 members sitting there. How long has this been going on?
I do not have an accurate date, but at least, I don't have an accurate date. But
Would you say 6 months, a year?
At least.
And shouldn't the higher-ups know about this and know that it's not providing due process? Why hasn't the 2
The
seats
appointing
been filled?
authority does know that there are vacant seats.
The appointing authority.
Yes.
Now, is this the same appointing authority that appointed, shall we say, maybe somebody who wasn't qualified for the disabled seat that shut down Sunshine in the first point?
I cannot speak on behalf
Okay,
of...
so once again, just like the other thing, I can follow up in an email and you can get me to the person who can answer that?
The appointing authority is the Rules Committee and the Board of Supervisors, and I cannot speak on their behalf.
I understand that. So if I follow up in an email, like I was going to do with the other thing about the 9 seats.
I
and
will
the
do what I can.
Fine, and I will continue to follow up because I want to know how this works. I want to have informed consent. And I want to make sure that the representations are being made is what I'm receiving. Now, the reason I ask this is because we've had many issues in the past with Sunshine and the failures that it's provided for me, let's say, against the Department of Public Health. Another interesting issue I want to ask you about, sir, is what about precedent here at the Ministry of Sunshine? You want me to explain what I mean by that? Okay.
Yes.
Precedents. Let's say you create a law or you enforce a law and you don't want the same department to be repeating it, so you find them once, you say, okay, well, this is our order of determination, this is our precedents, these are the things we found, these are the things we've held. You do this again, you're forewarned, you've already been told about this. So the reason I bring this up is because I have many times brought the Department of Public Health, for example, which I'm doing now again, to the Ministry of Sunshine, and repeatedly I've asked them for medical records and everything that I'm asking now, and repeatedly they have denied me, claiming that medical records was not a public record, and repeatedly the Sunshine Task Force has ruled in my favor that it is. But there's been no precedent. So now that, once again, that I'm trying to get my medical records, well, guess what the representation is from the Department of Public Health? That they're not public records. So, this question about precedents, it seems like I'm having to reinvent the wheel every time I come here, in regard to, things that not only were found, and there's an order of determination, and were held, but there's obviously no precedents. Nobody goes back and says, well, wait a minute, he was here before for this, and he was correct. Do you understand where I'm getting here?
And what is your exact question?
My exact question is, given the fact that I get no due process here, because we've just admitted that, that there's only 9 members and there has to be 6, for it to pass, and I've told you that's not due process, the fact that the 45-day rule is avoided, the fact that apparently, like I'm saying, there's no precedence, my question is, why would anybody be insane enough to use this rigged system?
I cannot answer that question. That is not a question. I cannot speak on behalf of the public.
Okay. Well, I think you've spoken quite adequately on behalf of the ministry, as far as what's offered, and everything else. The question about precedents, you still don't think you have an answer.
What is your question?
The question about precedents is prior orders of determination, like I have multiple against the Department of Public Health, specifically in regard to medical records. Why is there no precedent set for that so that we don't reinvent the wheel each and every time, or each and every person?
When we create an order of determination, it is sent to the department. It is up to the department to implement policy We cannot force the department to change policy.
So does that mean that if their policy is that we're going to deny this each and every time, even though we've been found out that we're incorrect, that, your hands are washed and, I will have to reinvent the wheel because you've done your correct part and sending it to them for a correctional policy. But, oh, by the way, that just fell through and didn't happen. So, Mr. Garza, you'll have to come back again and reprove this once again if you need your medical records.
At times, they do refer to the Ethics Commission for enforcement procedures.
Would that be like the article that I have here, that was written in the Bay Guardian, where 14 times, you guys had sent something up to ethics for it only not to work and be unaccountable? I mean, I want to understand the complete rigged procedure here.
What is your exact question?
Precedent. I'm still on the precedent.
I already told you that we refer to Ethics Commission,
and the precedent at the Ethics Commission is that they don't do anything when you refer them something, correct?
I cannot speak to that.
Naturally, but people can look it up, and everything else, on YouTube and can find out the facts and everything else about that and learn how it's rigged and everything else. So, you send it up to ethics, and let's say they don't look at it or anything. Does that then mean that the department doesn't have to change its policy? Because you know what? You did what you had to do. Ethics failed. The complainant didn't get what he needed. There's no precedent. Can you answer that?
I can't speak on behalf of the departments.
Okay. Well, I think you've done plenty of speaking. So, like I said, I will work on sending you the paperwork in the 3 cases that we have. I will send you these questions so that you can find out who can answer them about the nuclear winter, the lack of due process when it comes to the votes, the lack of sitting members, why was there a nuclear winter, the appointing authority before, what happened there with that appointing authority, they appoint somebody who was incorrect and that's why it closed down, what assurances does any normal human being have coming to the Ministry of Sunshine? And, this is pretty much what I'm taping and proving. So let me see if there's any more things on the back here. Oh, okay. I do have another question. I'm sorry. If, these 3 things that I'm working on for the IDRs, I've not only requested a hearing, but I think I requested that I hope that they find official misconduct so that they can be pushed up. Is that the correct way of doing it? Because I would hate to go through all this and then you guys not find official misconduct and you say, well, that's because you didn't ask for it, so we can't push it up to ethics, because if I am thinking correctly, right now you're only pushing up things that are official misconduct, right?
Official misconduct, they can refer that to Ethics Commission for official misconduct, but we can recommend it, but only the Ethics Commission can make rulings on.
Oh, no. I understand how it's rigged. I mean, I do have my paperwork saying that, 14 different times you guys pushed it up to ethics, and they didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, what happened to Mr. Grossman's thing that got pushed up to the Board of Supervisors? Did they act on it?
You have a reference to a file number?
Yes, 12056.
That was referred to the Board of Supervisors
Correct.
and the Ethics Commission.
Correct.
The Ethics Commission has not responded to us.
And the Board of Supervisors?
The Board of Supervisors has not responded. They have responded that the order was referred to the referral to the Board of Supervisors was referred to the members of the Board of Supervisors, and they have not given us any direction to conduct a hearing on that.
So basically, there was no action, and the case was closed.
That is correct.
So once again, proving what I'm saying all along, that it's rigged. Because even when you did send it to the Board of Supervisors, there was no result from it. Even though you guys did the correct thing, they dropped the ball.
I can't speak on behalf.
Naturally, that's exactly what I expect. This is the way I've said many times. It's flow-charted into oblivion, flow-charted into not working. Because, there's an old saying that, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, what happens when all the links are weak? Well, it's an interesting question because apparently I'm proving that all the links are weak. I mean, the Ministry of Sunshine, no precedent, no due process. If you're lucky enough to get an order of determination, they'll send it up to ethics or the Board of Supervisors, who won't do anything about it. What a lovely illusion people are living under. Terribly wonderful. Okay, so I will go ahead, like I said, and send you the emails, and we'll go from there. And if I have any more problems, I'll ask for another meeting, and I'll come in, and we'll just continue to talk about it and document. So, thank you. You've been extremely helpful in everything that you've said, and hopefully people will learn what it all means. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.